had the privilege of going to Tony's house, it's really just a library in an apartment and like maybe a bed if you're lucky. And at the Mumia event, he read this piece, and I had never heard Tony read. So throughout the years, I perfected my Medina voice. And I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do because he knows what's going to happen now. And but he read this piece, and it's always been one of my favorites. I don't know if you guys have your copy of Old School No News is Good News, now defunct Harlem River Press. But this is the piece that he read, and I want to read it to you guys now. When I go, I want people to break dance in the streets, have a circus, throw poetry readings, blow up the White House, kill the president, rob banks, nab bill collectors, abduct capitalists, interrogate fascists, strangle lazy lunatic, looting, tenant abusing, evicting, and booting, landlords and abstract, metaphysical, corrupt, money-hungry, baby booty, hungry hemlock, rice and peas, and dirty knees, hungry pedophile priests. And pork chop breath preachers, take out the Twin Towers, stop the money changers on Wall Street, cement the Empire State Building with pipe bombs and carpet razors, use my bones to play the drums, bury a grenade in my skull, send it hurling into a limousine crowd of constipated dead capitalists, corporate conspirators, throw my body out onto the street, stop traffic, let my arms and legs clog up the runways, invade the procession of operations of planes, trains, and automobiles. Let my written and recorded words scream and squeal and peel the ears off intellectuals and academics and artists with homes with houses and two-car garages and credit cards and insecure disguises. In alliance with treason, in league with devils and misers, roll my head onto the curb like an absurd bowling ball, taking out pale abstract tourists in rented stowaway tans of man, greedy for more land and more people to serve no need but greed, blasting my poems onto the head of bold, dunce-hat-wearing politicians and CEOs and missiles aimed at smashing out nuclear plants. Factories, and bind my books to dynamite and drop them in the lap of racist, right-wing, welfare-fearing bureaucracies bent on beating down and destroying people divorced from dignity and destiny and determination and self-esteem, married to apathy and despair and the unfair welfare of the gangrene of poverty created by finance capital, turning my passing into a collective deliverance from evil. Make my dying a redemption song, a celebration of life, a reclamation of truth and reason, a destiny's dance with the people's capacity for beauty, the thumbing on the nose of apathy, a betrayal of ambivalence, so that even in my death, I will be useful.
I first met Tony Medina in 2004 when he participated as a panelist at the 7th National Black Writers Conference, a symposium on the late John Oliver Killings. And Tony was asked to participate in this symposium because of his role as a poet and as an author who embodied the tradition and legacy of the late John Oliver Killings. Killings always talked about what it meant to be a long-distance runner, and that as artists, we have social responsibility. This is a particularly significant message for Black writers, and particularly for Black men in America. Tony is indeed a long-distance runner. I admire Tony's voice and his dedication to telling the truth in his texts. His lyrical style and artistic rendering of life in urban America from the perspective of a Latino Black man are accessible and convey a gripping portrait of the struggles that children and young men and women encounter on a daily basis in society. His stories reveal the interior lives of young men and highlight the stories we don't share, the family secrets, the struggles, those stories that are in My Old Man Was Always on the Lam, which is one of my favorites in him, because you really get to see in this personal memoir what it feels like to deal with coming to grips the death of one's father, with abandonment. It's a really courageous and honest, gripping memoir that addresses difficult issues we face when dealing with loss, grief, death, spirituality, childhood, all those things that face us on a daily basis.
But here in New York, we were fortunate enough to be directly linked to the Black arts poets, you know, and people that came out of the Black Panther movement with Sam Anderson. The first time I met Luis Reyes-Rivera and Pedro Perchi at the same time was in Harlem at a major reading where Mary was there, Luis was there, and Pedro was there, and a host of other poets, and it was a political, you know, forum. And I remember going, I was living on 148th and St. Nicholas, and Dave Mills, the poet, came to my crib, and I just wrote this poem called Capitalism is a Brutal Motherfucker. And I really literally wrote the poem in the shower, running in and out of the shower. And I just...
Can you get that visual? I just want to know. Everybody just get that visual?
And, you know, I typed it out, and Dave came to the door and I said, hey, I just wrote this poem, and I want to read it for the first time, but I never read it before. It's a long poem. It's kind of like, I hope I don't get an asthma attack and die in the middle of it. So we go to the reading, and I'm nervous because, two of my idols are there right off the bat, Luis Reyes-Rivera and Pedro Perchi. So since it was the beginning of the reading and not that many people were there yet, they already had to start the program. And this is right off of Lenox, off of 125th. So I get up there. I think Luis went first, and then Pedro went. And then I read this poem, and it was this long poem, and the audience went crazy. And as soon as I got off, Pedro gives me a big bear hug and said, we've been waiting for you.
I was born here, bled and died here, sacrificed here, so we could be free. Try to disrespect me, demonize, disgrace me. Take a second look, see. The truth is right here. Curse and disregard me, but like the phoenix I keep on